Project. Project name is the Korean War. The interview is being conducted at Mr. Bickett's house in Manchester, Ohio, on April 15, 1995. My name is Tom Pappas. Alright, where is your place of birth?
Akron, Ohio.
Akron, Ohio. And the size of your family?
4 children.
4 children. And your parents' occupation?
Mother's a housewife, and my father was a rubber worker.
And what was your education like?
Basically, grade school, 8 years, one school, house school, Akron, Ohio. I went to Howard Vocational High School for 3 years. Took machinist trade out, and that's what I made my livelihood. Turned into my career.
Alright. Where were you raised at, and what kind of family values did your parents have?
What was it?
Where were you raised?
Akron, Ohio.
Just raised in Akron. And what kind of family values did your parents set for you?
Well, I don't imagine they changed too much over the years. Basically, treat other people like you want to be treated yourself. Be honest, trustworthy.
Did you have any relation with anybody in the war overseas? Any relations to anybody in the war?
Oh yeah, relations. Yeah, several of my cousins were in the service. You're talking about Korean War?
Yeah, Korean War.
Yeah. Yeah, one was wounded. A couple of them were. I think one was in the Navy, one was in the Army, and about it.
Alright. And was your family, were you guys financially stable before the war? Were you guys alright? The depression and everything, nothing.
The what?
With the depression and everything, were you guys financially stable?
Yeah, this was, the time I was in was after the Depression. Things were, the Depression was basically ending around 1940, by the time the Second World War started. And things were kind of leveling off, and this was, when I went in 1951, things were pretty stable, yeah.
Okay. How did you feel about the war? Were you a supporter of it?
I didn't have any opinion much at that age. I was 20 years old, and I didn't much care one way or the other. Didn't have any, I wasn't like the Vietnam War where they had a lot of protesters and stuff. I went in. I was drafted, and I went in, and I didn't really have an opinion.
Okay. You were drafted for the war. Were you upset when you got drafted, or did you not mind going?
No, I kind of looked forward to it. I kind of exciting, I thought my friends were in, and they were drafted, and I thought I didn't mind it. I had 2 good years. I really enjoyed it.
Okay. Where were you located at?
The first camp I went to after leaving Akron was Fort Meade, Maryland. And I stayed there for basic training. And after I got out of basic training, they put us on a truck and took us 5 miles down the road, and I stayed there for 6 months. Took my basic training as a military police, and we traveled to North Carolina, Fort Bragg, North Carolina, maneuvers in the summer of 1951, and we're down there for about 3 months. I went to supply school in Fort Campbell, Kentucky, and served in Fort Knox, Kentucky, military district.
What does a supply school mean?
Basically, the supply school was, we had a supply room in the Army, and everybody got their equipment out of the supply room, uniforms and equipment, rifles, handguns, shovels, tents, everything you wanted, and we passed that stuff out, and kept records, and just about everything you need, your supply officer handled, all your blankets and everything, sheets, dishes.
Was that the first time you ever had any contact with weapons like that? With guns?
Oh, when I was a kid, I had a .22 rifle and fired that a lot. I basically lived out in the country for a few years, and I was no stranger to rifles and handguns.
Right. And what kind of prison did you guard when you were part of the military police?
Deserters, mostly. Disciplinary problems. If you had a problem, such as that.
Okay. How was your marital status at the time you had to go away?
I was single.
You were single? Okay, so you had no reflection. Alright. How did the Korean War start?
I think basically Korea was divided up into two parts. Originally it was one country, but they broke up and divided into two parts, the North Korea and the South Korea. I guess they would call the North Korea the communist part, because they always had to have a good guy and a bad guy. So the communist part invaded South Korea. They crossed over the 38th parallel. That was the dividing line between the two parts of the country. And when they invaded that, the United Nations got involved, and the United States and Britain or England and a lot of the United Nations peacekeeping forces were over there also. Basically, it was mostly United States troops, though. I'd say probably 75% was American. And they fought over there until, I don't know how long it lasted. 54, 55, or somewhere along there. And they reached an armistice, I guess, or a settlement, where the communist forces drew back beyond the 38th parallel, and they had a demilitarized zone where they had no one in this zone. They had this no man's zone. The South Koreans are on one side; they're still there today with a no man's zone. American troops are still there, and the North Koreans are still on their side. The South Koreans are still on their side, and they still give each other dirty looks. But you see it on television. They check each other out with binoculars. They have this zone in here is so big a zone that nobody's allowed in. That's where they divide. But I guess that's the way it is today.
Did you ever fear getting called over to go to war, to actually fight in the war? Did you ever fear going to war with them? Did you yourself
Did I ever
going
fear?
over there?
No, no. When you're that age, I was kind of look forward to a little excitement. But no, I never got any action. I never was sent overseas. But had I been, I would have just been like anybody else, I guess. I just take it as it comes. Back then, they never questioned things. They never said, "Well, we're going to protest about this," or "We're not going to go." And, which I'm not saying that's all bad to say that maybe this ain't right or that ain't right. Because back then they were like a bunch of sheep.
Okay. Did you have any life-threatening situations with anybody being in the military police for or against the war for
We had
riots or anything?
well, the only problem, no, not a problem. The only thing we ever had was a few escaped prisoners, and like one prisoner got shot and killed in Fort Knox trying to escape. And other than that, I never, not normally, no, there was no problem with it.
Did you lose any loved ones in the war?
There was guys I went to school with I know that have been killed, but as far as real close, no.
Nobody real tight.
Because when I got out of high school in '47, it wasn't very much longer that the war broke out, and a lot of the guys I went to high school with got drafted, and I knew a lot of them in the service.
How would you rate the whole experience?
Interesting, probably exciting somewhat. And I can imagine what it would be like over there if you had to go in there and shoot at you. It would really be something that I had a friend of mine tell me is the most exciting thing he ever had. Just something that you never had an experience like that in your life. A guy shooting at you, or the excitement of it. Of course, you don't figure on ever getting killed, but I guess it's real exciting. I mean, it's really, you can't describe it, unless you've been through it. And I never was through it, no more than a few things I did around here, but well, I can imagine what that would be like.
If you could do it over again, would you want to be in the war, or would you like to stay in the military?
I'd do the same thing I did over again. I don't know about you. Mean, do what I want to went overseas?
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, I thought about it, but then again, there's always a risk. When you go overseas and they're shooting at you, nobody wants to. But if someone would send you over, then you go. But to say I'm going to go over there and see what it's like. But at that age, you do foolish things. No, I don't. I'd have probably done the same. I enjoyed my 2 years. I really got a lot of guys had problems. They didn't like it, or they didn't like the way the Army did this, the Army did that. I adapted. I thought pretty good. I never had a problem.
What was your personal biggest achievement during the time while you're in the military police?
Biggest achievement?
Yeah.
Gosh, oh,
Or your biggest memory?
it may sound corny, but we got to march in a lot of real nice, big parades, and for dignitaries. I mean, people from you know, different countries, and everything was just really, really good there. But as far as I don't think there's any really big highlights. We we got to travel around a little bit. is.
What were the parades about? What were the parades about that you were in?
The one parade we was in was when the national Memorial Day parade. They would take our whole unit and take us on a bus, and we'd go to some little town, and they'd have a big. Really, back then they had parades that was really first class. They would have unit, 20 or 30 units or more, 40 units, and they would have tanks and everything. They really went all out. That was exciting. They'd take you there, and they usually, if you had a parade in their town, they'd feed you lunch, and you'd get to go out and meet the people, and it was interesting. I enjoyed it.
When you were at the military police, where did you stay? Did you have your own house? You stay in Army quarters? Or?
Both. I stayed on camp, and then I stayed in town when I was with the military district. I rented a room in a city. But basically, most of it was at Army camp. A lot of it, direct traffic. I never had a real exciting service adventure, but we didn't really do this. Actually, it can get boring at times. Just training and training and training.
How did your parents react to the war?
Oh, I don't think they give it mind. I know my mother didn't want me to go, and actually most mothers don't. My daddy, my stepdad, didn't seem to say too much. They were just got done with World War II, and they were probably already wore out. And of course, your mother's always concerned for you. There was young guys getting killed over there. They like 50-some thousand, I think, got killed over there. Of course, your mother don't know, or they're worried because they figure maybe you're going to have to go next. They never sent me over, and I didn't really miss it. But had I been somewhere, I did what I had to do.
While you were in school, could you see this work building up? Could you see it coming at you? Is there anticipation?
No, in fact, it didn't until I got out of school. It didn't. In fact, it happened just bang. It wasn't something that you had a lot of preparation for. It's just something that they crossed over the 38th parallel one day. Just like the communists and the Americans or something. There's always a certain amount of conflict. Just one day they just crossed over.
Were you aware? So you were only 20. Were you aware of where it was over at the time? Did you really understand what was going on? Why?
No, you never really. All you know is what they tell you. The real truth, you'll never know. They say, well, these are the bad guys, and these are the good guys, and you're supposed to go along with it. Maybe we were wrong. Maybe they were right.
Did you go along with it? Did you know something was up?
I didn't much give it any thought. I just went ahead with, I figured I'll do my 2 years and I'll get out. But the World War II was different. It was a cut case of aggression and people trying to take away your type of life or your freedom, and then you had something to fight for. But when you go over there and for a country that you don't even have much interest or you're not involved in it, do something, well, just like Vietnam, that was something. A lot of guys lost their lives. Now they come out and said, well, it really was a big mistake. That makes you feel bad.
Yeah.
Especially if you're one of the ones that didn't come back.
You didn't suffer any injuries or wounds or any major sickness or anything.
No.
Pretty clean. What was your opinion of the enemy soldiers? What was your opinion of the enemy soldiers?
Oh, they were just like anybody else. They were just on the other team, is all. They got drafted. They try to make them out to bad guys, but if you really get down to it, they were no different than anybody else. They just did what they were told to do. Just like it's all political. That's all it is. The Americans, the soldiers are the same on both sides. They do their job. We do our job, and the politicians make the rules.
Did you know anybody that was a prisoner of the war?
Second World War, yeah.
Just a second.
Not the Korean War. No, I didn't know any prisoners.
No. Were there any major changes in your life besides just leaving home? I mean, compared to your job before you left and when you were with the military police, did you work before you got shipped off?
Did the experience make any difference?
Yeah.
Oh, no, I can't tell a lot of difference. I just come back and did the same thing I did before I went in. I just bought a nicer car and.
What did you guys do for fun when you were in the military police? Any entertainment?
I don't like to say it. Everybody drank,
Yeah.
caroused around. We didn't play pinochle or horseshoe. Let everybody go out and get drunk.
Yeah. What was your opinion about our government?
No. I really didn't have an opinion much then. I just did what they said do.
Yeah.
Of course, now I'm going to have a little different opinion of that, but we won't go into that now. Of course, when you get older, you just get wiser, I guess.
Are you a part of any post-war organizations, unions, or anything? Clubs or anything?
No.
Did you have a change in job after you came back?
I had the same job. I went back to same company, just same department, same old guys, same boss. Few new guys, few old guys retired, but basically it was the same type of.
What was the standard of the family of living as a result of the war? No.
Well, in mine, not a lot of difference. I was single when I went in and single when I got out. I'd say the job was the same. I just bought a newer car is all. But nothing really as far as in my situation wasn't much different.
Okay. How did you get treated from your supervisors, the people ahead of you, your superiors?
I think basically when you first go in, they're kind of they want to impress you with their authority, and they want you to know that you have to do what they say do, and when they say do it. It's kind of like I say, it would be like kind of chicken shit what they say. But after you're in a while and get your own assignment or your own barracks. I would say, as far as the government goes, if they considered stopping the aggression a goal, yeah, they did that. They stopped it. They went back to what it was before the Koreans invaded the South Korea. They really didn't gain anything, but they didn't lose anything either. They lost 50, 60,000 young men, but as far as land, or they didn't change a lot of boundaries and things. Other than the loss of, which is, I'm not downplaying it, the loss of life, there was not really a lot of political changes. They gained or they lost. There was another one which I believe really was, of course you can't call it a mistake because you don't know what would have happened if they not went over. They might have took over all of Korea. Which would that make any difference? I don't know.
Okay, if you could rate how for your whole experience for yourself, the experience yourself, 1 to 10, 10 being a great experience, where would you put it?
As far as my dull life, it was probably pretty exciting. No more than what I did. I mean, I'd say it'd probably be about a 7.
Yes, 7.
I never did a lot.
All right, then that'll do it.
Okay.